America's First Lady of Television becomes one of its most generous philanthropists. We speak to Oprah Winfrey. Welcome to the Week on Newsnight. This week, Oprah Winfrey tells us why she's giving $40 million to a school in South Africa, how the arrest of Iranian intelligence agents in Baghdad points to a very different Middle East from George Bush's vision, and is the UK really benefiting economically from immigration? Hello. In recent years, a new kind of philanthropy has emerged in which some of the richest and most talented people on earth give away millions of dollars of their money or their valuable time to help the poor in Africa. The latest of the new philanthropists is the US talk show host Oprah Winfrey. She's given $40 million, about £20 million, to create a leadership academy for girls from poor backgrounds in South Africa. I spoke to her about the project.
I think that the reason the world, not just Africa, but the reason the world, Gavin, is in the state that it is because of a lack of leadership on all levels of government, not just in the highest elements of government, but on all levels, and particularly in regards to schools and schooling for poor children. And so I wanted to do something that I knew. I know that the best way to make a change, not just in a person or personality, but the best way to affect change long term is to give children exposure and opportunity and nurture them to understand their own power and possibility. So that's what I was trying to do.
When you look forward to what you hope these girls might achieve, could they become the new political leaders of their country?
Do I really think it? I absolutely know that is what is going to happen. I think some of them will be political leaders. Some will go into politics, some will go into science, some will be in the arts, some will be doctors, and some will be, lawyers. I think in all fields of leadership. I wasn't just trying to make a school that would develop political leaders. I'm looking for the opportunity to change the paradigm, to change the way not only these girls think, who will then go back into their families and their communities and influence the way their communities think and feel, but to also change the way a culture feels about what women can do. My biggest struggle here, Gavin, was getting other people in this country to understand my vision. And for a long, long time, it was cumbersome and difficult. And I gave up about 3 years ago. I said, I'm going to quit. And I felt really bad saying that because I'm not a quitter. But I gave up the project for a time because it was just so frustrating. And I ended up continuing only because they were going to put my name on the school anyway. So I decided that my name's going to be on it. I have to have some control over what's going to happen. But no, just getting people to see that African girls, and particularly black African girls, even though we have Indian girls and white girls and what they call here colored girls in the school, but the majority of them are black African girls. And I think that there's some residual apartheid effect here, in that people didn't believe that African girls should have such beautiful surroundings. Everybody's calling it lavish. I call it comfortable, and what I would expect somebody in my position and power with the resources I have to do. Why would I build 10 shacks for girls who are coming from 10 shacks?
I was really struck by the figures that you're putting in $40 million of your own money, which is about the same as the entire US government is putting in for education in the whole continent of Africa. Despite all the talk about making poverty history, do you think they're really serious, or are they leaving it up to individuals like you?
Well, that's what I'm hoping will be an inspiration for other people, not just the government, but other institutions and other people who have, the finances to be able to do things. I'm not saying anybody else needs to build a school or telling anybody what they should do. But obviously, the reason why, Gavin, I wanted to do this myself and didn't ask anybody for any money, and still haven't asked anybody for any money, is because I wanted to say, this is what one person can do. And, obviously I have a lot of money, but there are a lot of other people who have a lot more money than I do. So I wanted to say, if one person can do this, imagine what, institutions, other people who have great, enormous resources can do. But for me, it's more than just about one school. Certainly, I wanted this first school to be in South Africa because of my deep love and respect for Nelson Mandela and everything that he has meant for this country. It was a meeting with him that I first said, I'm going to donate $10 million, which has turned into 40. And anybody who knows anything about running a school or any kind of operation understands that 40 is just the start, because 40 it took to build it, and then you got to run it. So paying for the teachers, paying for the staff, paying for the responsibility of nurturing a girl for the next 6 years of her life, that's going to be very costly. I am prepared to take care of all of those costs. But more important to me than just this one institution is what this institution symbolizes is possible for this entire continent.
In the end, you're putting money into Africa to keep children in schools in Africa. Was Madonna wrong to do the opposite, to take a child out of Africa?
Absolutely not. I think I applaud Madonna because, listen, when you come from a different race and are raised not in the culture of, African people or African American people, what a decision that is. I think that is an amazing decision that you and your family, in the case of Madonna and her husband and her children, had to make a decision that we are going to bring a child from a completely different culture, not just a different culture, he looks different. He's not even the same color as our family. And we're going to raise that child as though he were our own son. I think that is an amazing thing that she did, and it makes me sick to have people criticize her because there are millions of children in this world who will die because nobody came to save them. And so the fact that Madonna did, I think she deserves praise and applause and not to be criticized.
Ever since the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979, the government in Tehran has had one key strategic objective: to neutralize its rival in Iraq. Now, Newsnight has uncovered evidence that suggests the Iraq war may have helped Iranian mullahs gain influence at the very top of the Iraqi government. It's a murky tale of Iranian intelligence agents arrested in Baghdad and suggests US policy may have actually helped one of the powers branded part of George Bush's axis of evil, the Iranian government. Mark Urban reports.
December the 21st, and American forces raid the Baghdad compound belonging to Abdulaziz Hakim, leader of a powerful pro-Iranian Shiite party. Inside are Iranian officials and documents that cause consternation among coalition commanders, for the Iranians had apparently been sent as part of a covert mission to influence the Iraqi government.
There were 5 senior officers in various Iranian intelligence organizations. It was a very significant meeting. These people have been collared, relatively speaking, up to no good.
Back in October, Newsnight was given special access to British patrols on the Iraq-Iran border. This type of activity was being stepped up because of coalition concerns that Iranian intelligence organizations were supplying militant Iraqi Shiite groups with the means and know-how to kill British or American soldiers. These operations come at the same time, though, that the Iraqi government is trying to improve its diplomatic relationship with Iran. Following the arrests in Baghdad, the Americans quickly released several Iranian diplomats and 3 intelligence officers. They continued to hold 2 intelligence officers seized at the Hakim compound. The US military spokesman in Baghdad telling the New York Times by email that the raid had produced
specific intelligence from highly credible sources that linked individuals and locations with criminal activities. Some of that specific intelligence dealt explicitly with force protection issues, including attacks on multinational forces Iraq.
British officials insist the raid produced some highly important intelligence, even if it didn't provide a smoking gun linking the Iranians to supplies of weapons to those Shiite militants who attacked British troops in southern Iraq. Within days of the arrest, though, it became clear that the whole matter was extraordinarily diplomatically sensitive. The Iranians were in Baghdad at the invitation of the Iraqi president. So what was the Iranians' mission? Newsnight has been told by government sources that they were there to hold high-level meetings with representatives of several Iraqi factions.
There was discussion of whether the Maliki government would succeed, who should be in which ministerial jobs. It was a very significant meeting. The fact of who some of the Iranians were is very significant.
The American arrests, though, threatened the diplomatic drive by Iraq's President Talabani to have better relations with Iran. He met President Ahmadinejad in Tehran last year. For that reason, some Iraqi ministers regretted the American raid.
When you have security and when you are passing through difficult political times, certain mistakes are made. But I think better consultations between the multinational forces and Iraqi authorities should be our objective, and consult each other before this sort of action is taken. I think it was a minor mistakes by all sides.
On the 29th of December, the Americans released the 2 remaining Iranians. An official Iranian statement, the only one so far on the affair, noted,
"The arrest of the 2 diplomats was against all internationally accepted norms and regulations, particularly the Geneva Convention. Appreciating Iraqi official efforts for the release of the 2 diplomats, the ambassador stressed satisfactorily that all attempts which have been made so far to damage Tehran-Baghdad friendly relations were failed by the 2 sides' vigilance."
In Whitehall, they expect Iran and Iraq to pursue good neighbourly relations, even security relations. So why the fuss? Well, British officials say it was the identity of those arrested Iranians as intelligence officers on a covert mission of political influence that causes them so much trouble. They were working quite apart from the Iranian embassy in Baghdad. To the Americans, of course, it smacks of Tehran trying to turn the state of flux in Iraq to its advantage. We've learned that America would like the Iraqis to declare at least 5 of the Iranians they arrested as persona non grata and to be banned from coming back into Iraq. The government in Baghdad is considering such a step, but has already been angered by what it sees as American encroachment on its diplomacy.
This week, the anti-immigration pressure group Migration Watch claimed the benefit of immigration to each British person is just 4 pence a week, the equivalent, as they put it, of a third of a Mars bar a month. The other view, backed by the government and the CBI, is that immigrants do jobs others will not do, often for low wages. We begin with Sir Andrew Green of Migration Watch.
Nobody has any objection to a limited number of skilled people coming to Britain, but we're now in an entirely new situation. We have migrants arriving in Britain at the rate of about 1 a minute, and these are people who have to be absorbed into our society. And even if you allow for the people who leave the country, we still have an extra 500 people every day, and that's placing a great strain on many aspects of our society. The government tell us about the increase in production, £4 billion a year, quite right, we don't question that. What they don't tell us about is the increase in population. And it happens that they are proportionately almost the same. The increase in production is 0.32% of GDP, and the increase in population is 0.31. So it's tiny, 0.01, that's about 4 pence per week. Economics shouldn't be decisive in this. We need to look at the other strains on our society that result from such huge numbers. One of them is that a lot of the newcomers are willing to work for much less than British work.
My name is Mark Esteban Prothero, and I'm a painter and decorator. I've got no problem with them being here, but I just don't like the attitude that by business, how they look at us and they just say, well, you know, you're lazy, or they're better workers than you, or this. Well, you know, I'd work if it was there. It's not always there. There's gaps now.
Right.
And it's just not, the market has to be competitive, but now it's way too much against, if you want, for want of a better word, indigenous workers. It's just weighed against us too much. You know?
So they're employing foreign workers?
Well, they must be. It must be part of the equation.
The trains are absolutely packed with people, as you can see. The motorways are stuffed with cars. There's housing, schools, hospitals. It's just getting very difficult to live, particularly in the southeast of England, where 75% of migrants come to. Britain is already 4 times as crowded as France. We're full of people. We really do not need many more.
For the opposite view, we turn to the economist Philip Legrain, author of the book Immigrants, Your Country Needs Them.
I think Andrew Green's report is incredibly narrow and misleading. Immigrants contribute to British society not only through the taxes that they pay, but also because they do the jobs that British people can't do or won't do. What's more, they've helped fuel Britain's longest economic boom, helping the economy to grow faster for longer without sparking inflation or raising unemployment. 4/5 of East Europeans who've come to Britain since 2004 are aged 18 to 34. They're young, they're mainly single, most of them don't have kids. They pay taxes, They're not allowed to claim welfare benefits, so it's utter nonsense to say that they're a drain on British society. We rely on foreign nurses and doctors. Remember a few years ago, it was almost impossible to find a plumber or a builder. Well now, thanks to the East European workers, that's no longer true. And who's looking after our old people? The fastest growing sector of employment is in old age care, and the people mainly doing that are immigrants.
What are the main areas of work that your agency specialises in?
Most offers we had from construction industry, from catering, from care homes. There were some offers for salesmen, for accountancy staff, for office personnel. They hardly ever apply for any sorts of benefits. Probably the exception being child benefit.
Perhaps the biggest economic benefit is that it makes society more diverse, and having a wide range of people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, that boosts creativity, it boosts innovation, it boosts productivity growth, helps the economy grow faster. It also, you look at the success of a place like London, it also helps attract talented people who want to live in a cosmopolitan city with a wide range of restaurants, with a wide range of different people. It makes it exciting and pleasant, and is good for the economy.
Well, Philippe and Sir Andrew are here, plus for the Conservatives, Damien Green, and we're joined from Leeds by the Labour MP, Anne Cryer. Sir Andrew, first of all, you heard Philippe Legrain's point there. Rebut him. I mean, why is he wrong to say that you're too narrow in your definition of economic benefit? It's much wider than you say.
Well, the first point to make is that he was talking almost entirely about East European immigrants. In fact, according to the government's figures, only 1 in 5 of our immigrants, net immigrants, come from Eastern Europe. So it's a much wider issue than East Europe. And secondly, nobody, his film certainly, and nobody else has rebutted what we've said, that if you take immigration as a whole, it certainly contributes to the economy, as he says, nobody denies that, but in terms of the benefit to the native population, it is tiny, it is pennies. And nobody's denied that.
Philippe, just on that narrow point, he's right, isn't he?
I absolutely deny that. He is talking very, very narrowly about the contribution to public finances. If immigrants contribute to boosting the rate of economic growth, to boosting the rate of productivity growth, then we are all richer as a society as a result of that. And if it's even 0.25% a year, after 20 years, we'll be 5% richer, which means the average person on 20 grand a year will be £1,000 richer each and every year. It's not pennies at all.
Let's bring in the politicians. Anne Cryer and Leeds, on this narrow economic point, are you persuaded that actually it really is pennies for most of us?
There are problems, and I've had them put to me by one of my local employment agencies, who is a bit fed up with one of the more seedy employment agencies undercut him considerably by employing people from Eastern Europe, paying them the minimum wage, but then docking their wage by £2, £3 and £4 in lieu of rent, of food and buses and fares over here. That is no good either for the people who live here already or for the people who are coming into work.
So you're partly convinced by this, actually, then?
Yeah,
that from the
what I'm
indigenous
saying is that they are being mistreated, I think. Many of these people who are coming in, I mean, you know, we can't go too far down that road because we finish up with the cockle pickers on Morecambe Bay who were all killed. You know, you can't just say employment at any price. The people who are coming in from Eastern Europe must be employed properly, at proper rates of pay, with proper accommodation. And in many areas this is not happening. So it's no good for them, and it's no good for the firms who are competing against these rogue firms who are employing them under such conditions.
Well, Damien Green, you can see why some British businesses like this, because it's a source of cheap labour. I mean, on the narrow economic point, again, do you basically agree that for those of us in the indigenous population, there's nothing in it for us?
All the evidence I've seen suggests that if you take it as an aggregate, then there is some benefit, but that it's probably not huge. But in a sense, I think that's inviting us to a simplistic conclusion of either concluding that all immigration is economically good or that all immigration is economically bad. And that, of course, is a nonsense. Some immigration has benefited us and will continue to benefit us. Uncontrolled, unlimited immigration won't benefit us.
Well, that was the week on Newsnight. Goodbye.